Hello, my name is Sonia. I am studying English in Nisa, Colombo, and today I will be able to speak about my reading habits because it's a homework for skill 5. I remember I read a lot of books in my school. For example, El Principito, La Divina Comedia, La Ciudad de los Perros, El Coronel no tiene quien escriba, and other books. In that time, I didn't like to read science fiction books, short books, travel books, biography. I only read mandatory books. In the 10 and 11 course, I remember my teacher made I read somewhat books. For example, La Divina Comedia. La Divina Comedia was written by Dante Alighieri. It's a science fiction, and I believe it's a page turner, but is a hard follow. And this book present the story for the 3 different plays. Also, I remember I read El Coronel no tiene quien escriba. El Coronel no tiene quien escriba was written by Gabriel García Márquez. But Gabriel García Márquez was born in Colombia, and he is a famous reader in Latin American countries. El Coronel no tiene quien escriba is a novel. It's an interesting book, and I believe is page turner are fast read. This book presents the story of the old man in the sea. When I read the book in the first time, I don't understand the principal idea. But now I think, if you don't want for yourself, someone will for to help you. Because the life is hard and the life is difficult. I wonder if you read this book, but if you don't read these books, I recommend you because it is interesting and is famous books because was writing for a famous people. Also, I remember I read El Principito for twice. In the first time, I read because I think it's a children book, and the second time I read for my school in the 10 for my philosophical class. I think this book is hard to follow because they use a philosophical method, la mayéutica and others. I believe is interesting. I haven't read famous books, for example, La María. La María was written by Jorge Isaac or Cien Años de Soledad. This book was written by Gabriel García Márquez. Those books are very famous in Latin American countries, and many children read these books in the school. In the university, I only read technique books. I don't read different books, and I think the technique books is hard follow, and these books aren't fast reading. I remember in this time I don't like to read short book, science fiction, or travel or novel. I only read technique books. But one day someone led me a self-help books called La culpa fue de la vaca. I remember I haven't finished to read the book, but my mother finished read these books. I think this book is a page turner art is fast read because it's a short books. Uh, when I make my thesis, I read my first English books. I remember this book is big and it's about the environment. Um, I remember I need to spend a lot of time for ending reading because in this moment I don't know the English, and for this reason I am studying English. When I study English in downtown Colombo, I haven't read English text before. One younger partner said me, "You need to read more time." For the reason, I start to read. But one day in the library, an old man said, "You need to read short books before big books, for example, thrillers, novels, travel, biography." I think the short books is better for my English process because this book is fast reader and, and very short. Mm, in these days, my my English teacher asked me four questions. The first question was, uh, I wonder if you are big reader. But in this moment, my answer was interesting question. But now I don't think so because I don't read, and in my free time I prefer to watch TV, listen to music, visit my friends, and call my mom. In the conclusion, I I believe I don't have good reading habits. The second question was, can you tell me what type of the book you prefer read? Mm, I prefer read science fiction or short story, but I like to read short stories. I had wanting to read Geisha's Lies. It's a short story, and I believe it's a good book because this presents a culture of Japan, but I don't know. The third question was, I wonder if you listen audiobooks. Uh, mm, I I ever listened audiobooks for short books. If you interested for this type of the books, you will be able to find audiobooks in the library. You don't need to pay any money because it's a service for the library. Um, I recommend you the children's stories because it's very nice as it's good for your English process. My the fourth question was, can you tell me how hours you spend in the website? Mm, I believe I only spent 1 hour in the website. I like to read a project manager text or article in a special page and called Dharma Consulting. This page presents the article for international project manager. I think it's nice, and I believe it's good for my work. In conclusion, I I believe I don't have good reading habits because I don't read in my free time. I only read in my work or in the English class. I think I need to change my reading habits because it's a good good habit for my life. In the other point, uh, I think the future problem for the new generation is the reading habits because in these days the children don't like to read. They prefer watch TV. They prefer play games, visit the social page, and also they don't like to visit the library. They prefer copying homework for the internet, and in the many case they didn't read, only copy. I think it's a problem for the in the future, but I don't know. Mm, in the other point, uh, I I I've been working in MT for 2 years, but this year Mrs. Hilma invited a books box. This book has the short stories and special self-help books. I wonder if Mrs. Hilma like to read self-help books. I don't know. I think this idea is good. It's innovating for my office and is nice. In the Friday, the people will be able to choose the books, but the problem is the my partner and me. I don't like to read in the week. We prefer to play, to watch TV, sleep in more time. I didn't read, but I think it's good idea. I believe Mrs. Hilma in Mrs. Hilma can to change the mind in the future, long future. But this idea is good. This is the final my story. See you next Monday. Good weekend. Goodbye.